Hi, I'm Bhavna Dalal. I'm a leadership coach and we are on the CXO Leaderboard. I'm here today with Aakash Sethi. He is the CEO for Quest Alliance, and what they do is it's an organization that enables self-learning. Hi Aakash, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Okay, great to be here and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so what does Quest Alliance do exactly?
Yeah, so one thing we've realized is young people who grow up in schools and colleges really grow up with the fear of learning. And I think what we are on a mission to do is really break that fear.
Okay.
And what that really means is really make sure that they are self-aware, they are digitally literate, they can build strong relationships,
Okay.
and they can express themselves freely to follow what they really enjoy and their passion. So it's really trying to bring together some of these skills which you don't learn in school, but really create that desire for learning that we focus on.
So sort of like life skills.
Yes, you can call them life skills, you can call them 21st century skills. There are many jargons, but I think the core is these four things that I just mentioned.
Great, great. So I believe you guys were involved in a research, and a lot of what we will cover today will be about what is the future job market in India going to look like.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this.
Sure.
This research that you did, and what exactly is this research?
Sure. So in the last year, we've been really looking at looking at what the future jobs and what are the future skills that are going to be needed. And in the last year, we focused on a research that really looked at trends in industry, whether it's manufacturing, services, the informal sector. We looked at certain predictions that were written in various reports of the World Economic Forum, of internal sort of government documents, and really consulted experts as well. So it's really a foresight into the future. It's not only based on data. And what this report really looks at is, given that automation is going to be is a reality.
Right.
What is the changing nature of the job market, and therefore what are the skills that will be most relevant for young people to be relevant in the job market.
Okay,
So
and this is India specific?
This is very India specific.
And does it focus on the rural market or the urban market?
So the trends are really agnostic of a rural or urban,
Okay.
but it really depends on where the jobs are. So we are seeing that a lot of the jobs are in urban and peri-urban areas. That's where a lot of the industries are. In rural India, for example, mostly there are government jobs, teaching jobs, and banking jobs. Those are the kind of jobs in the rural areas. So yeah, it looks at trends across rural and urban, but a lot of the insights might be maybe more relevant for the urban to begin with.
Okay, great. So just share with us some of the key insights of this report.
Yes, so quite a few interesting trends. One, we are seeing that as that there are going to as jobs get automated, and an example there is when the banking sector was growing, when ATMs came up, for example, the cashier was redundant.
Right.
And therefore the cashier's role was played by the machine. But then suddenly you had relationship managers who were really talking to customers, understanding what their patterns are, and then helping them plan their finances better.
Right.
Now that did not replace the number of cashiers with the same number of relationship managers. So there was a loss, big loss in terms of cashiers, but there were a few relationship managers that came up. So that's really what's going to happen in other sectors as well, whether it is retail, or whether it is travel and tourism, where a lot of online bookings and things around, let's say travel agent, will not need to only book tickets, but will need to track the customer preferences in terms of your patterns, in terms of what do you like doing when you go on travel, what are your kind of preferences
Right.
around travel. So it'll become more personalized. The role of a travel agent will become sort of more personalized to who you are, what are your travel preferences, and suggest different options to you based on market, based on data, etc.
Right. So this reminds me of basically even design thinking and really customer centricity. So
Yes.
also innovation being at the core of this and really being empathizing with the customer, so to speak. So the jobs that will shift towards more understanding the customers and empathizing with the customers.
Absolutely,
Right? Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Similarly, I think another thing that we are seeing is that a lot of the jobs, especially in the BPO sector, which are entry level jobs, we may see a loss of almost 650,000 to 700,000 jobs in the BPO sector in the next 4 to 5 years. And that a lot of those entry level jobs actually are done by women, and women may be at the receiving end of losing those jobs.
Okay.
And the other social dimension to this is that women have less access to technology at home. So 27% women actually have access to the internet, as opposed to almost 45% men in the country who have access to the internet. Now, why that is important is because of the gig economy. There will be new jobs, new freelancing jobs that will get created, but women may not be able to access those jobs because of the larger social norms around using the internet, or being skilled to do work on the internet, whether it's from home or from remote locations. So there is this need to also have a mind shift in the way we look at digital skills, as well as the jobs that are going to be created because of the platform economy, or the gig economy as we know it. So yes.
So where do you see the most number of jobs getting created?
So just building on the point of empathy and the human aspects, I think caring for other human beings is going to become more and more important with machines taking over our lives. And I think that's something we feel is going to create more jobs. So if we feel we are seeing a trend where there is more and more enrollment in private schools as opposed to government schools that is happening. So there's suddenly a greater need for teachers, and we're going to see significantly more demand for teachers in the next 3 to 4 years. The other area is just healthcare, just caring for the elderly. As people become more and more independent, nuclear families are the norm. We are seeing the need for more professionals who can take care of the elderly, be there to support families during when there's an issue with the health. So we are seeing that those care economy, or even travel and tourism, we are seeing these are the places where there will be more jobs that will get created, which require that human connect, that human touch, that is essential for well-being of people.
Okay. So does this report have any data on the tech sector? Where will the technology jobs move to, or?
So we have looked at industries across the board, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's services, mining, and what we are seeing is that there is a very high automation potential in all of these industries, even retail. For example, you're talking about drones who could possibly do the job of delivery boys, for example. But it's not necessary that the adoption of these technologies will be very seamless, because there is a high cost to adoption. There is a certain mind shift in the time that takes for adoption. There are regulatory and policy issues that will affect adoption as well. So it's a bit of a double-edged thing, that there is a high potential, but whether it will actually transform these industries is yet to be seen, and we can't really predict when it will happen.
Okay, and so there's no information also on which industry will allow it to permeate more as opposed to the other?
So again, there is, in terms of high potential for this. So for example, BPOs, like I mentioned earlier, has a high potential for, and it will get affected. Like I said, there will be probably 650,000 jobs from BPOs that will go, because data cleaning, data entry, data management will become a lot more seamless, and maybe what will be needed is people who can actually interpret this data, analyze this data, and take some action. So there'll be jobs created which will be fewer than the 650,000, probably 100,000 jobs as compared to the 650,000 jobs that will go away. And what will become critical is how we can upskill these people who are losing these jobs to take up the newer jobs that are being created as well. So upskilling and reskilling yourself will be the norm, and it's no longer about the degrees or the certificates I hold, and my education ambition is not driven by the degrees, but is driven really by the next big job I would need to do and take.
Okay. So talking about this upskilling and reskilling and feeling driven to sort of move in that direction for yourself, how do you see that unfolding?
Yeah.
How do people go about upskilling, reskilling themselves?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point of the fear that I grew up with from learning itself, and I think what we are seeing is really learnability, the ability to learn, that will be the key. And what is learnability in our minds is really a combination of the desire to learn and your capability to learn. So what is creating that desire? Is that the next big job? Is it really fulfilling your interests or ambitions that you've set out for yourself? And that's what creates the drive to learn, is these tangible goals that I want to go out and achieve. And that's kind of what we also call the growth mindset,
right?
That I'm continuously achieving the next level of my goal, and that's driving me.
That comes from the self-awareness, right?
And that comes from the self-awareness. I think the other piece of that is really the capacity to learn. And I think that's where, given the education system that has failed us in building that capacity to learn, I think the key is really how do you deal with failure as learners, and how do you really deal with being vulnerable when you start learning new things. It's okay to try, it's okay to feel stupid or look stupid in front of others. Share that stories of failures is equally important than just talking about success. So I think the capability to learn is really driven by these attributes that we need to start displaying if we really need to go on that path of upskilling, reskilling, staying relevant. So yeah, it's a lot of unconditioning, unlearning that
so
needs
that's
to be done.
a really important leadership lesson of self-awareness and the fears, which stops you from recognizing what it is that will bring you fulfillment, and the fears that stop you from doing that, and then recognizing that in yourself, and that sort of also unlocks the desire to learn.
Yes.
That brings out that drive, that sort of intrinsic motivation,
Yes.
which will move you in the direction of learning.
Yes, so there's no one holding that timetable or that report card for you anymore, right? It's that intrinsic motivation that I want to unlock for myself, and that's something I have to really find within me.
Right.
And
And that helps you take reins of controlling your own career path or life path to the huge amount of things that, and as a coach I can endorse that, right? And
Yes.
whatever you want to achieve,
Yes.
and tying it back to all this is also an enabler to the gig economy, the design thinking, the agile learning methodologies, and that all ties it back into that.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, this has been really a fabulous conversation. Anything else you want to say or urge people to do, like something that you would like to promote, like a message from your end?
Yeah, I think the other piece which we've been thinking about also quite a lot is how are organizations really creating opportunities for learning in young people.
That's a great point.
And I
Absolutely.
think it's not just the onus on the individual, but it's also the leaders and the organizations creating safe spaces for people to learn, especially when they come in at an entry level, to make sure that how do you make sure that young people transition into an organizational ambassador will require a significant amount of investment in them as individuals. And I think equally important is organizations recognize that it's no longer about a job, it's about really building careers for young people, and that investment can happen only if they create a learning culture within the organization, and people really take that seriously and not just one person's job somewhere in one corner. So I think that to me is
a great point.
is critical to making sure that this transition happens for many more people.
And for that you need the senior leaders. Who do you think would be most responsible for inculcating or that culture in an organization?
I think it has to come from it has to come at all levels. I think the senior leadership has to drive it. It cannot be the job of one person, in the HR team who is responsible for L&D. I think everyone in the leadership and everyone in the organization should believe in it, should value it for it to succeed. So I don't think we can shy away from that anymore.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So. Yeah. Great. So thank you so much for your time, and it was a really valuable conversation, I think, and good luck to Quest Alliance in their future. And
thank you.
And those, if you want to access the report, I think
it's on questalliance.net. You can search for it on the web, and happy to have those lessons learned shared with more and more people.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.